Hi there, everybody. Roxanne here. I wanted to get on screen and talk a little bit about the supply list that I finally am getting posted and getting out to you guys. I am recovering from bronchitis and it has been a real bear. I could have sworn it was COVID and flu and RSV, but I've tested negative 3 times and I figure, well, my doctor said it is bronchitis indeed. So anyway, been treated for that, getting on the tail end of that. Um, I'm also working with a new computer and let's see if I can stretch this little view. Yeah. Um, so I wanted to just go over some of the supplies since we are starting next week. And I didn't want anybody to get nervous, like, oh my gosh, I don't have, I won't have everything that I need. So most likely for the first 2 weeks, you probably already do. Maybe for the first 3 weeks, you probably already have everything that you need for those lessons. Um, One thing that I do want to make sure that you know is that you're going to, like in my previous lessons, you're going to want to have access to a printer so that you can print out our photo references and some class notes, because we're going to have some really juicy notes that you're going to want to have available while you're thinking about all this stuff. So the first week, just like in my blog post with the supplies, you're going to want a sketchbook and a couple of pens. So something that's kind of light, doesn't take up a lot of space, because now in our classroom setting, we're actually going to be working in on our Zoom class with photo references. But what I'm hoping that you'll get excited to do is to take this outside. Yes, it's January. It's not been too bad of a winter here in Connecticut, actually, um, but it is cold. Um, but this 10-minute sketch idea, it has been truly freedom for me. When a friend introduced me to this several years ago, it was just like, oh, okay, yeah, I can get outside in the winter. I don't have to have a full blown big, highly detailed sketch page or painting. Um, I can get the bones of something, get back in to my warm studio with a cup of tea and the heat, and not have to have 50 layers of clothes on, and have my hands be comfortable, my ears, all of that, my feet, all that stuff that gets too cold outside. So anyway, the 10-minute sketch is where we're going to be starting from, and not just any scrawly old thing, because I think all of us go through that period where we start out, we go to, a beautiful national park or regional park, and there's sky, tree line, and a field. And so we come home with a triple decker of boredom and we go, how come my painting's not very exciting? This is sort of, I mean, it was pretty when I saw it, but you've made a very, some linear, it's just a linear painting of stripes, kind of, which does bring about feelings of calmness. But if you're looking for something interesting, that calmness can be kind of boring. So we're going to talk about um, abstract composition, how it fills the whether it's paper, sketchbook, canvas, whatever surface you're working on. We're going to be talking about how to fill that space so it's a little more intriguing, interesting, fascinating. If you want something that gives you calm feelings, if you want something that has a little more explosive feeling, how do we get that? We're also going to be talking about some basic forms. This is a pretty um, and this has been one of those art books that has stood the test of time with all representational painters. And, I can't tell you how many artists that I have run across that have said, and there's blog posts about it out there. You can just look up Edgar Payne, boring book, exciting book, and just kind of Google those things. And there is a lot out there that, artists that have said, oh my God, this is the most boring, dry stuff. But then one day, and I felt the same way when I first bought this ages ago. And then at some point, you're going to go back to it and you're going to find that, oh my gosh, here's the golden nuggets. Um, it's full of really valuable information. And now I know how to and now I know how to use it, and now I know what you know, it's going to serve me very well. So I want to go over some of those meaty things with you too, and then you can determine if you want to buy the book or not. So you don't have to buy the book for class. Um, I'll share some bones with you that will give you what you need to know, and then you can determine, do I want to buy that? You probably are going to want to buy the book, but start with the class first and then see what you think. And if you really want to stretch that, um, it's great. So the first couple of weeks, like I said, we're going to be working in the sketchbooks. We're going to be talking about these big shapes. You know, I could have called the class Shapes, Not Things, but it's actually kind of geared towards landscapes solely. And these are going to be like all natural landscapes. There's going to be no structures, no architecture, none of that. It's going to be just natural forms and how you make that fill the space. And so we're going to be starting off, with our 10-minute sketch walk, how to get outside. And I'll talk about how do you do this when it's blistering cold or it's blowing sleet or, all these other things. There's other ways besides the 10-minute sketch that we can actually use that format to capture the linear part of what you need. And so it's going to be, gathering just linear sketches like that in whatever works for you, whether it's the beach or whether it's a sky or the woods. And then we're going to be coming back with just some local color once you're back in the comfort of your studio. And I might talk about some other little things that make it kind of fun to address. This is a sketch, this one that I'm going to use again and again because I like the shapes in there. Now you may have some, part of this lesson is, you're going to find some shapes that's like, wow, that wasn't as compelling as I thought it was when I was standing out there sketching it. So it's okay. It is, it's brush mileage, pen mileage. It is that visual mileage that kind of helps you discern things further, the further you go. So, because there's no such thing as 100% success in this. So, anyway, from there, we're going to be talking about, well, let's take those linear sketches, throw on some local color, things that you remember. We'll talk about working from photos versus memory. So we're going to touch on that in this series as well. But from there, we're going to be talking about values and that whole thing back to water versus pigment ratios. That is like the strongest thing in watercolors. So you might want to get yourself a tube of either Winsor Newton Payne's gray or maybe something fun like Daniel Smith's undersea green. So you're going to want something that's dark, that you can have quite a range of values from pale and watery to deep and intense. If you've already got some of these fun colors that you bought and kind of wondered, oh no, I got them, what do I do with them? One thing that's going to be really exciting is some more exploratory work. And for this, I've got a simple Strathmore sketchbook. It's mixed media paper, but as it turns out, it's all cotton. So it was a really good find at my local it's local job lot here in southeastern Connecticut. It's sort of like a store with a bunch of stuff. I don't know any better way to put it. It's just stuff, but sometimes they have good stuff like this. Also, if you have one of those Strathmore visual journals, that's the spiral bound thing. They're great also. Fun to use for this kind of project. So in this step, this is going to be your exploring value stuff. We're just going to be going through and trying out those weird tubes of paint that you kind of don't know what to do with. They don't go on your regular palette, but what happens when you drop them into water, when you try to stretch that value range from lights to darks, just a series of mark making. I mean, it looks like piddly stuff, but you don't realize how valuable this is once you start getting that paint on paper. Um, it's just such helpful. Like here's that little um, sketchbook scene that I pointed out a while ago in my little book that I've just taken to something exploratory with this, with, just values. Here's that, the big tree that kind of hangs over the path and the view out over the cove. And so just by, kind of stretching these little values, lights and darks, that's um, going to help me strengthen this scene. And why is that messing around kind of stuff helpful? Well, I find it really helpful because when I really think that sense of, I mean, control is an illusion. But if you have the control, which you do, over how much pigment you put in, how much water, that is the biggest thing you can control. And man, it makes all the difference in your paintings. So from there, rather than jumping into a full color painting right away, which sometimes people make this whole thing all pale and watery or all thick and goopy, they don't get that range of um, light values to dark values. So playing around with a single color in a multiple value range is really helpful. So like in this one, I used Perylene green, this one here. And in this one, I used undersea green. I think this one I used only Photolite Genuine. So, you don't have to have all those colors, just pick one. The point is find something that you can, just a single color, or you can buy up 10 if you like. Um, but just get yourself one that you can have a really nice value range. If you've got a really good ultramarine dark, you could even use that if it's something that you already have. Um, just a little note about Payne's Gray. I like Winsor Newton Payne's Gray. I have tried so many other brands. They're good paint. They're great paint. But a lot of the Payne's Gray, it kind of looks like battleship gray to me, and it is boring. I hate it. And if you don't get a good quality Payne's Gray, they can have some fillers and make everything look murky. I've seen some paintings that have just that artists have used Payne's Gray in like a Cotman or a lesser variety, like a student grade, and it gets real chalky and murky really fast, and it's kind of depressing. It just really kills it. It loses its life. So this one, the Winsor Newton kind of leans towards a bluish gray, like a deep blue gray. It's really lovely. So if you're into Payne's Gray, which I never was before, but now I'm kind of like, oh, okay, I'm I'm finding one that I like. Here's some other examples. So, each of these, and this is on hot press paper. Normally I do like cold press paper, but just another example. This one is Payne's Gray. This one is burnt bronzite genuine. It actually has a little bit of sparkle in it. Um, let's see. Payne's Gray, and this one looks like undersea green, I think. So anyway, you'll find that, even what I find so lovely about these, even in a single color, all these values, even a green sky makes sense. It makes sense because the values are correct. You can use any color if you really nail those value strengths. So anyway, that's going to be the crucial part kind of midway through the class. And then after we play around with that on a small version, like a taped down version, either a partial page. And what I do recommend for that is to get yourself a block of good watercolor paper. You don't have to, but I strongly recommend it because the good paper really makes all the difference. When I say good paper, I mean paper that is 100% cotton. Lots of different brands out there that are great. There's Arches, there's Fabriano, there's Lana Carell, there's Fluid 100. Just make sure it says 100% cotton. Um, there are student grade versions of some of these that are either wood pulp or like Fabriano has a student grade that's not bad. It's got like 25% cotton. Um, so there's that as well. But I really feel like, boy, treat yourself, really treat yourself to a good piece of paper. You're not there to serve the paper. The paper is there to serve you. So don't feel like you're not worthy of it. You are worthy of good supplies. So don't feel like you're wasting it, because the only time paper is wasted is when it sits on the shelf and doesn't get used. So from there, those single color value range exercises, then we're going to go to a little bit bigger full color exercises where you're going to, break out this. So things like this look deceptively easy, and people will look at it and think, oh my gosh, they just swished away. Whoever did that just. And actually, it takes a lot of deliberate planning to be able to swish like this. So I do want to, not let that fool anybody into thinking this is going to be just like a big old swing and swish type session. Um, Eventually, you'll feel like that. It's like it'll start feeling more comfortable. But some of these early exercises will help you just let go of that tentativeness, put all the perfection, just kick it to the curb. Perfection does not belong in here. Perfection, I mean, I don't even like using that word. The paintings that you love and are going to fall in love with, they will come through the understanding of these techniques and theories. So anyway, when we get to the swishy lessons later on, I think weeks probably 3 and 4. When we work on something a little bigger, you're going to want a little bit bigger brush. I think we probably go as big as 9 by 12 in this class, just so I can fit it under the camera really clearly. There's this one that I love. I kind of found out about it through another watercolor artist who does a lot of abstract work. And it's made by Escoda. It's a versatile, which is sort of like it's a synthetic, but it's sort of like I don't know, it feels like a cross between a synthetic and a natural hairbrush. And it's kind of long. It's because the regular size 10 brush is, I mean, this is a 10 round long. And even the bristles on this, the Escoda, look a little bit, it's got a lot of heft to it. But the length allows you to get really swishy. And when you dip it in a cup of water, it actually holds a lot in the belly, but it's got this wonderful point so that when we need to make some little organic marks, wow, it's really lovely. And if you're one who wants to carry things bigger later outside of class, then later you're going to definitely need some bigger, fatter brushes for that kind of work to cover more space, because tiny brushes will not cover full sheets of watercolor paper. It's just like sweeping out your garage with a one-haired broom, not big enough. So don't tell yourself you can't do it if you haven't got the right supplies. So again, I'm going to be using my palette that has all my tube paint squirted out in here. The little tiny travel palettes are just going to probably frustrate you. You can probably use them if you work kind of small, but once you start really wanting to have some juicier puddles, you're going to be going through that paint pretty quickly. So I really find having tube paint and being able to fill your own wells keeps the quality of paint that you need. And yes, you will want quality paint. Let's see. So the last week, once we get to painting bigger and looser and understanding composition like this, then we're going to talk about how to mount it on a board so I can frame it and display it like this rather than This painting that I did, it's a San Diego lighthouse behind me. That was from, gosh, the late 90s when I lived in San Diego, and probably 1998, 99. And it's under glass. It's matted and framed it's, mounted on a mat board. Um, and the thing that makes me crazy about stuff under glass is look at that reflection from the light. You cannot avoid it. You're either getting a reflection from stuff outside or, the lights bouncing around your room. It just, I, it drives me crazy. So, for that last class, you're going to need, and I've got this on the list, you don't need to get a mammoth tub like this. They do have smaller tubs. This extra heavy gel gloss medium is what you're going to apply this to your panels with. You're going to finish it. I'm going to finish it off with Dorland's wax medium. And you're going to want some rubber gloves. This stuff is nasty on your skin, so you don't want that on your skin. Before you get to that part, though, you're going to want some Camar varnish. I'll talk to you about how to use it so you don't ruin a nice painting. Oh, and then panels. So you're going to want to apply your paper painting onto a panel. And one of the things that I really like are these gesso boards made by Ampersand. And they have these at Jerry's Artorama and various art supply stores. Um, you can get them in thin panels like this or thick ones. This, you pop it into a frame, either one, or the thicker ones you can kind of hang on their own without a frame if you like a little contemporary look. So anyway, that is going to be the bulk of the class. And that last week, when we talk about mounting these panels, if you're kind of sitting on the fence about this, you don't have to buy those supplies ahead of time. You can watch sit through the class, ask questions, and because I'll be working, I won't be able to take one all the way straight through, but I'll have, like they do in cooking shows where to pull out this step, now the souffle is at this point, So I'll have each different step so you can see some of the pitfalls you might run into and how to avoid them. Because there's a few. I've had people who have tried this technique and go, "Oh my gosh, what happened? It buckled and bubbled." And I asked, "Did you use a brayer? Did you do this?" And they're like, "Oh, no." So it is a matter of, you want to follow it step by step. It's not, you don't have to rush. So that last week 6, when we talk about that step, you might really want to sit through that. And then we'll also address any other painting questions that goes along with that too. So hopefully I've answered all your questions, and hope to see you in class. I'm so excited about this series. It's a little bit different because it really is the start to finish, but it's one of the things that I love doing every day. Taking a walk, because I gotta walk, because otherwise the pounds to shat on. So I walk because I love it, makes me feel good. And the sketchbook is like an added bonus. And then I come home with really good data for, when it's too cold to paint, how do I get out there and still bring home these scenes that I want to see in a painting? So anyway, stay well. Happy painting. I will see you in class soon. And let me know if you have any questions. Bye. Thanks.